Writing prompt by Papergeist. The world is ending, the radiation is enough to cook a human alive, the last humans locked themselves into bunkers, guarded by their servant machines. But after 200 years the radiation has subsided, and the humans are being awoken, however the robots outside have their own new belief systems. We waited nervously, huddled together in the narrow concrete walkway, the air heavy with the smell of damp cement and human sweat, as the heavy blast doors slowly began to open for the first time in over 200 years. I had been so proud to be chosen as part of the advanced team. I remember the speech given by Warden Johansson at the farewell banquet. How his bald head glistened under the sodium arc lamps as he droned on about how I was the pride of Bunker A47, and he was sure I would make us all proud. I remember the tightness I felt in my throat as I hugged my mother and sisters goodbye, shouldered my pack and walked out of our cubicle to be escorted to the tram taking me to basic. Feeling lonely, scared, excited, and proud all at the same time as the lights on the tunnel wall flicked by, and I got further and further from the 4 square miles where I had spent my whole life. But now as the sunlight split the seam between the opening doors, at first just a narrow beam of blinding brilliance, but slowly growing to fill the whole tunnel, impossibly bright even filtered through the darkening panel of my helmet, I realized that the only emotion I was feeling was terror. The biscuit I had squeezed from its tube onto my plate earlier this morning sat in my stomach like a lump of cement, and I felt like I couldn't breathe. I wanted nothing more than to turn around and run back to my home, but the bodies pressed around me made doing so impossible. My breath began coming in quick short gasps as the blazing yellow light refused to dim and reveal what lay beyond the slowly opening doors. We didn't know what was out there. It could be anything. Sure, the reports said that the background radiation had receded to tolerable levels, and the outer atmospheric readings all indicated that the environment was fit for human habitation, but we had no idea what was truly out there. Our surface cameras had, one by one, gone dim over the past 25 years. In the brightly lit mess hall last night I had been able to laugh with the others at the conspiracy theorists who had tried to delay the planned surfacing, arguing wildly over the net that something had destroyed those cameras by design, that there was something out there which did not want us to see outside. But now, with a cold icy panic, I felt sure that they had been right all along, and any second some horrible surface monstrosity would bound through the doors and murder us all. Aliens, creatures that evolved to survive radiation, the cleaning bots we had lost contact with in AB 113, the theories about exactly what was out there varied wildly, but all agreed that they would not welcome our intrusion. I felt a gloved hand land on my shoulder and turned to see Jason looking at me with concern in his eyes. "You doing okay, Masterson?" His voice came crackling through my earpiece on a private channel. "Wouldn't want you to crack up on me like you did at regionals last year." I laughed. "Cut the shit, Holsterstein. I didn't pass to you because I knew you're the worst shot in section 742. At least with me behind the puck we had a chance. Jason and I played intramural hockey together, and I had missed a game-winning shot in last year's regionals against section 322, killing our team's hope of traveling to the central zone and competing in the bunker-wide championship. Something I had not stopped getting shit for, and probably would not until we were old enough to get the pill." Jason smiled and his look of concern loosened. "Hey, maybe when we're on the surface we'll get to play on ice like they say they used to." He let his arm drop, and I felt my breathing return to normal as the hand that felt like it had been wrapped around my chest loosened a little. Whatever was out there, at least Jason had been chosen with me, and we could face it together. With a groan that echoed eerily throughout the incline of the tunnel, the doors shuddered to a stop, and Sergeant Thomas beckoned us upward toward the, still inscrutable, golden exit way. We shuffled forward, watching each other from the corners of our eyes, nobody wanting to be seen as hanging back, but being equally cautious to not be the first to step outside. Sergeant Thomas shouldered his rifle and without a word, stepped through the archway carved into the rock, leaving us to follow him. Emerging into the sun, blinking furiously, my eyes narrowed to slits like the week when some bug caused the morning lights to switch on without the regulation transition phase. I struggled to see the terrain of the new world. It slowly began to emerge as my eyes adjusted, and the sheer magnitude of the outside left me feeling winded like after a hard check on the rink. I watched everyone, exit protocol forgotten, craning their heads and staring in amazement at the unbelievable openness. Dusty brown grass poking out of yellow crumbling soil stretched as far as I could see. The landscape loomed on forever like a yellow moor, and over it hung, suspended in a purple sky that stretched on further than my eyes could take in, the sun, an impossibly big yellow orb. Sun, grass, soil, we had all studied these terms and seen the pictures in textbooks at school and in training for this mission. But it didn't come close to preparing me for how big it was. I felt like a speck about to be blown away or swallowed up by the impossible openness. Stephen Tartan, a hockey tube farmer from District 6, suddenly fell to the ground and began screaming. "It's too big, it's too big," he yelled, writhing on the ground in an apparent attempt to burrow into the earth. When a member of the team knelt to touch him, he was thrown to the ground by a sudden jerk of Tartan's bulky arm. "Someone sedate him, now," barked Sergeant Thomas, and when none of us moved he sighed and strode forward. Holding a syringe in one hand and flipping its cap off with a practiced flick of his fingers with the other, he grabbed Tartan by the neck in a way that made him seize up and stop twisting. The syringe plunged into a spot between Tartan's shoulder and neck, and he slumped still. Sergeant Thomas turned to us. I thought he would yell like he did when we screwed up in basic, but instead he merely stood without speaking for a moment and then said quietly, "Look, I understand that this is a lot to take in. It's different than we all imagined, I'm sure, but we have to focus. The people down there," and here he twisted and pointed back to the tunnel entrance, "are counting on us to do this right. Let's get moving." Sergeant Thomas turned sharply and strode away, trusting us to follow him. We had just begun to when a loud echoing roar shattered the silence surrounding us. Sergeant Thomas was thrown to the ground by the sudden impact of shrieking metal bullets. It all happened so quickly. I saw the jaw of the man next to me disappear in a flash or red and exploding bone. The bullets dove into the ground or struck home in flesh with sick thuds, and the screams barely began before they were cut silent. I was the only member of our team still standing. I saw Jason lying near my feet, his torso an expanse of seeping red holes. It was silent again for a moment, the only sound a light trickling of blood seeping from wounds, dyeing the yellow soil a dark red. I heard a loud grating roar like when a central tram would pass through our district at high speed. I turned and saw on the horizon square metal machines moving toward me from the distance, plumes of yellow dust following their advancing forms. I realized, belatedly, that I was still holding my gun, but before I could do anything but gape at it, I heard a loud crack, and the barrel exploded in a whirlwind of flying carbon bits. I saw that gun sights extruded from the squat metal forms drawing swiftly closer, and they were all trained on me. I turned looking for an escape route, but realized I was surrounded by the machines, and they were soon upon me, drawing up near me in a loose semicircle, and wheezing to a stop with the gasps of expelled exhaust. I waited for figures to emerge from the square forms that I now recognized as tanks from the wars of old Earth, but none did. Instead, a booming mechanical voice echoed from the machines in unison. "Welcome back, Bip Bip, to the Earth, human. Are you satisfied with how we, Bip, prepared it for you?" From the same subreddit, writing prompt by Big Ben Clock. "Dude, trust me. Don't be a hero, be a sidekick. You get less pressure, less work to do, more fun, be more popular at school, never really age, and if the hero dies, you will always fill their mantle. Just be careful not to die." The waitress flicked on the ancient TV in the corner, its screen fuzzing up with static before leveling out to show a grainy security tape. The camera looked out onto a quiet midtown street. Though difficult to see, the pre-war buildings nearby had dramatically tall windows, cast iron gates, and ivy climbing up the walls, giving it a modern patrician feel. Just 2 hours ago, 6 armed subversives stormed the Consulate General of Peru, a CNN reporter announced. The Astoria diner, only about a quarter full before the lunch rush, fell silent. The patrons twisted in their seats to get a look at the scene playing out across the East River. We've learned that there are an estimated 14 hostages, though that is unconfirmed. No terrorist groups have come forward to claim this attack, though an unnamed source within the Peruvian embassy believes this to be connected to the Chilean government. We have not received word yet on how the American government plans to address this attack on this soil, but we'll keep you updated as the story progresses. Dax dropped his spoon into the now empty bowl of corn chowder, the metal clinking loudly. He closed his eyes, sighed and rubbed his stomach with contentment. Had his belly always stuck up this much? Might be time to take his dirty laundry off the peloton and finally get back into classes like he'd been promising himself. Dax opened his eyes to find the rest of the diners look at him incredulously. A burly man in his late 50s was glaring daggers at him, obviously offended by Dax's indifference. Dax sighed again, miffed this time. This wasn't the first time he had seen the hostage tape. In fact, Dax had arrived at the Consulate General of Peru a mere 10 minutes after the situation began. He stood up and walked over to the aggrieved man, gesturing to the other side of the booth. "Mind if I sit?" The man nodded but said nothing. "Look," Dax said, "those people are going to be fine. And they only have 11 hostages, not 14. "You don't know that," the man said, his eyebrows shading his face in skepticism. "I do know that," Dax replied. "I know that because I'm Professor Premonition." The man's brows furrowed further. "You mean," he croaked, "the Sonic Scream's sidekick?" Dax bristled. "I prefer partner. If you're Professor Premonition, where's the Sonic Scream? Why aren't you there helping? What else is left for me to do?" I asked. "I warned the police yesterday, but they didn't take me seriously. Even still, I gave them the tip that one of the hostages had a secret cell phone. I even went through the trouble to let the reporters know when it would be safe to call them. The Sonic Scream and the police have their plan, so why would I want to put myself close to all that danger?" The waitress slid a hot coffee in front of Dax. He poured in a non-dairy creamer and took a small sip. Plus Dax said, if I have another premonition, I can just as easily call my partner on the phone. He waggled his beat-up Samsung in the air before setting it on the table. Might as well do my job while eating the best corn chowder in town. The burly man rolled his eyes, obviously convinced that Dax was off his rocker. Breaking news flooded red light from the TV into the dimly lit diner. The conversations died down as everyone paused again to listen. We go now to Tonya, on the scene of the Pyovian hostage crisis. Tonya. A reporter stood in front of a cloud of dust and quickly adjusted her blouse as the camera began rolling. People were streaming out of the building behind her. Moments ago, the sonic scream, superhero involved in the infamous Coney Island fire rescue as well as last month's blob incident, saved the day once again. Following a SWAT team, the scream incapacitated the gunman, giving the hostages time to escape. No casualties and only mild injuries are reported. Truly amazing. A man emerged from the building, his bodysuit chalky with dust. Oh, Mr. Scream. Mr. Scream. May I have a word? Tonya called. Sure. The sonic scream replied, jogging over. He had a small cut on his cheeks and bags under his eyes, but was otherwise no worse for wear. Tell me, the reporter asked, how did you handle this situation so adeptly? Well, the scream paused thoughtfully. I couldn't have done it without my partner, Professor Premonition. And of course the support of the good people of Newton. Dax pulled his eyes away from the screen and settled them on the man at the other end of the table. Partner, Dax repeated smugly. Another chowder for my friend here. The burly man called to the kitchen, slapping Dax amicably on the back. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and smash that like button if you like the content you view.